What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Bourbon Judge. Hey, so I'm actually really excited to go ahead and jump into my infinity bottle. Now, I will say, before I even get started, none of these up here, as of yet, are my infinity bottles. So, truth be told, my infinity bottle is actually pretty damn big. It sits about this high off of the table and like this wide, and it is super heavy. So I'm gonna fly in a quick video just so you guys can see, and ladies as well, so you can see exactly what my infinity bottle looks like. Take a look. All right, bourbon friends, see, this is my infinity bottle. As you can tell, this thing is way too big to move, but at least you get to see the actual size of it. Pretty darn big, and it's pretty full, ready for distribution to those nearby. All right, so we are all back. So you saw the actual infinity bottle. So what I did was I actually just poured into my infinity bottle, well, the juice of course, but I used another bottle because this one's a little bit smaller, easier to handle, and so forth. All right, so when you think about an infinity bottle, what comes to mind? Bourbon Judge, what is it? How do I create one? Give me the 401, right? The entire logistics of an infinity bottle. Okay, so in short, an infinity bottle can be used in a couple different ways. But when you first think about actually starting an infinity bottle, number one, you have to pick a bottle. You gotta start off with a bottle. So the container that I have, as you guys and ladies just saw in the video, is pretty large. So not everyone has to use something that big. That's just the Bourbon Judge. I'm like the whole mentality of go big, go home, right? That's just my thing. But I will say you can always pick a couple different options. For this video specifically, my wife went, I think she got this from like the dollar store for $1. So you can use a smaller bottle. I made something like this. This is the normal size. You can also use a decanter. I don't actually have one here with me, but I'll find a picture of a decanter. Most people know what they look like. Beautiful, nice, nice glass work, if you will. And then last but not least, you can always also use an old empty bottle. I actually recently, me and the guys, all my buddies came over. We were smoking some cigars a couple of days ago, and we just finished off this lovely bottle of Old Carter Rye. So you can also use any old, well, you use an Old Carter bottle, but any old empty bottle. The only thing I would say, just make sure you rinse it out with nice hot water. Do not put any soap in there because you don't want to mix up any soap if you don't wash it out too well. I would just say use some hot water and that should be good enough, right? But again, always use an old empty bottle as well once you clean it. Once you do that, what's the next step? So everyone has a different rule of opinion, if you will, but I'm going to tell you the Bourbon Judge's logic. So for me personally, I always think whenever you start off with an infinity bottle, you always want to create like a base. So you want to find maybe 5 or 6 different bottles and use maybe a little bit more to start. And I would say probably maybe like about 4 ounces of each bottle. So I picked these 5. They were not in any particular order, honestly. I just actually grabbed them off of here. I picked like obviously the Stellum. This is the Old Ezra. You guys can obviously read, but I picked these 5 bottles. But again, when you start off with your base for your infinity bottle, you probably want to have at least maybe anywhere from 12 to 20 ounces. So anywhere from 3 to 4 ounces per bottle to use as your base. That's just your base. The whole point of this, though, is that how do you build up? How do you scale up to down the road to adding and having a larger infinity bottle? From there, the decision comes. There's 2 different decisions. You can either do one or two. You can do either the neck pour, right? Or you can also do the last pour. For me and the Bourbon Judge, the way I rock and roll, I prefer to do the neck pour. It honestly just gives me a reason to open more bottles. That's actually the truth though. But I prefer to do the neck pour primarily not only because it gives me a chance to open more bottles, but also, as most of us would agree, whenever you open up a bottle and you pour out just a little bit, it gives that bottle of bourbon or rye or whiskey, whatever, a chance to really kind of breathe a little bit. So I prefer to do that first. So like I always say, every bottle I open, I pour anywhere from 1 to 2 ounces into my infinity bottle, and that's just what I prefer. Some people prefer to do the actual last pour. I don't prefer to do that. I'd rather just do like the first ounce or 2. That's just the way I rock and roll. Again, I think either is fine. Now, there's another big decision you have here. You can do an infinity bottle just for bourbon. You can do an infinity bottle just for rye. Or you can do what I do. Just put it all together. So my infinity bottle in the video you saw before is all bourbon and rye. Everything that I have in my house that I've ever had at least is in there. Every single thing that I've opened. Even some expensive bourbons like an Old Carter or a Foregate. Now I'm not gonna lie. Whenever I'm popping an Old Carter or a Foregate, I'm not doing 2 ounces. Let's just be clear. I'm doing maybe about an ounce on the dot. Just a nice little, to give that neck room to breathe a little bit, right? So, but again, every single thing that I open always goes in my infinity bottle. But back to you. You can have, again, one for bourbon, one for rye, or you can just have one in general, which is what I do. And I put everything in there, no matter if it's expensive or even a cheaper whiskey or bourbon or rye as well. That's me. Last thing I will say though, when you think about just whiskey in general, so most of us in the US, we're typically used to drinking either bourbon or rye. You can say Tennessee whiskey, it's the same darn thing, we all know that, which is also bourbon, right? However, I am not a Scotch fan, I'm not an Irish whiskey fan, and I'm not a Japanese whiskey fan. So for me, I don't have to worry about that. But if you own in your collection Scotch, Irish whiskey, or Japanese whiskey, that's totally your call if you want to mix those. Most of those different whiskeys are actually aged, as we all know, in ex-bourbon barrels, because again, bourbon can only be, a barrel can only be used one time from an aging standpoint in order for it to be called a bourbon. So if you want to mix everything together, that's totally your call. It just depends whether or not you want to have everything all in one. So I don't have to worry about that because I only drink bourbon and rye. It's much easier. I have one or two, and I mix them all together. Last but not least, I think, you know, a lot of people will say, well, Bourbon Judge, you have that big ass infinity bottle. What are you doing with it, right? What are you doing with it? So there's a couple things I will say. Number one, for me, I love at the end of the year, I take about, I think this thing is like, it's either like 12, 13, 14 ounces. I fill up these jars. As you guys can see, I have a nice label on the front. It has my logo, the Bourbon Judge. I fill these up and I give them to all my friends, all the guys I hang out with. I ship one to Cousin Anita. Cousin Anita, she's taken home a couple of these. The last time she was here, she filled one up, had a couple sips from it, and then passed out on the couch. So Cousin Anita definitely loves it. But no, at the end of the year, honestly, as like a, not really a Christmas present, but as like a holiday, like kind of gift, if you will, I always give all the guys I hang out with, even my good friends from the liquor store, my good friends who I've met over the years have hooked me up as well. I give them some of my infinity bottle as well. I've shared it with my man Brian from Beginning Bourbon. So that's like the whole love of bourbon, right? He's sharing with people. So I always try to fill these up in, you know, different sizes. It can be this size or a smaller bottle. But I do end up sharing it with my friends at the end of the year. I will say, it is important that, for me and my purpose only, I never drain my infinity bottle all the way to the bottom. I always keep about, almost think of like a gas, like when you get gas in your car. I always keep about at least a quarter of a tank, right? I always keep at least a quarter of it in there. I don't want to go all the way to the bottom. But I do love sharing with my friends and all my different friends from the liquor stores as well. It's just a fun way to kind of share and enjoy bourbon. But when you think about it, from an infinity bottle perspective, throughout the year, of course, the Bourbon Judge has to tap into it, right? I got to tap into it just to make sure the quality is still there. All right. I think I covered everything. I think the only thing I didn't cover is one last decision you have to make. This day and time, there's a lot of bourbon also made or finished in wine finishes, such as port, Cab, Chardonnay, I think about like the Thomas S. Moore's, right? The ones from 1792. There's a lot of different wine finished bourbons and ryes out there, or even bourbon or ryes finished in rum or honey as well. That's up to you whether or not if you want to mix those in. You can always do a separate one on the side for, like, let's call it a finished bourbon infinity bottle. That's up to you. For me personally, again, I do it all. So no matter if I have a bourbon or rye finish in a rum, in a wine, different finish, cask, port, cab, and so forth, it all goes in my infinity bottle. I do not, let's just say I don't discriminate. I put it all in, no matter what. Again, it's your personal choice. Now, I will say last thing, I need 3 quick, easy favors. Number 1, hit the like button. Number 2, drop me a comment. I love going back and forth. This is honestly just such a blast. Hope everyone enjoyed their Thanksgiving. Thank you, by the way, from the last episode for all the love. Thanks for helping me to get to 5,000 subscribers. I appreciate everything. And I guess last but not least, make sure you please also hit that subscribe button and the bell notification as well, so that whenever I produce content, you get that notification. All right. You didn't think I was going to end a bourbon episode without sipping some bourbon, right? Of course not. There's no way. Not in this house. So I got my little glass here, my little mini Glen. Pour just a little bit in here. I had too much bourbon this past weekend, so I'm going to go a little bit lighter than I normally go. I'll close that up just for now. I'll get it. There we go. Leave it. I'll close it all the way because I want to knock it over. I know the Bourbon Judge, know myself. All right. You know, I've never actually, if you want to go hardcore, you can also get like one of the little testing kits online. I think from like Amazon. They sell them for like 10, 15 bucks if you want to test and know the actual proof of your infinity bottle. Even I, as much as I love bourbon and rye and just whiskey in general, I have not did that myself. But I kind of know, just from sipping this numerous occasions, I think it's about 110, maybe 112 proof. I happen to enjoy most cast strength bourbons, for the most part. All right, not bad. Nice color. I like, see how nice and dark that is? Oh, I love that by itself. So nice. Just everything mixed in. I would say in my collection personally, I'm like a 60-40 guy. I think I have 60% bourbon, maybe even 65, and 35 to 40% rye. Oh man, this is nice. Woo! This is nice. I got a little bit of everything. It's just traditional bourbon, but obviously some rye in there as well, a little spicy as well. Hey, as I always say with each and every episode, you guys know me. Peace, cheers, salute. I appreciate each and every one of you out there. Here's to everyone. Happy holidays. Wow. That is a buy. My infinity bottle is probably better than almost half of my entire collection. That is damn good. Oh my gosh. All right, there's a little bit left. I'm not leaving this one. Not in the glass. Oh man. All my friends that are getting this for the holidays, woo, you guys are, and ladies as well, there's some ladies, you guys, Shannon, a lot of you guys are going to be very, very excited with this pour. That is damn delicious. Peace out, everyone. Cheers.